Hi, I'm Simon and I'm a Misfit.
And I'm Adam and I'm a Misfit too.
So welcome back to our instructional video series of how to make a cement sculpture of a pensioner who's sitting on a rock and feeding birds from his hands. In this video, we're going to show you the final step to the mesh process, which is covering him in small mesh and as well adding details for clothes. So now we're going to small mesh the rock. I'm going to measure the rock. The height at the tallest part here is 45 centimeters and the circumference 140 centimeters. And we're going to cut a sheet of the small mesh 140 centimeters long and 70 centimeters high. It gives us an extra 30 centimeters or 25 centimeters to allow us to wrap it around and cut some flaps to fold over and to fold under in exactly the same way as we showed you how to small mesh the head. We're going to tie exactly at the side, just near where his back is, and in doing so we're going to make sure we have an equal amount of mesh at the top and at the bottom to be able to fold down. And we can use any loose prongs that you find on the rock, or you're welcome to cut a prong loose in order to tie to the small mesh. And at this stage now, the big piece of mesh that we have, it's too big and his body's getting in the way. So what we're going to do is we're going to loosen the point where we tied the foot to the rock to allow us to wrap that around. And at the same time, we're just going to snip parts of this sheet of the mesh so it allows it to pass underneath his leg. So we've trimmed across the top, which is allowing us to pass underneath. Before we're able to do that, we're going to make some incisions along the bottom so that we can fold each flap underneath as we move across. So we're nearly done with the rock. The final steps are to find any holes where the small mesh hasn't covered. For example, on the top and the bottom, there might be some holes from where the flaps haven't overlapped. And we can look for any bubbles where the small mesh hasn't attached flush to the rock. Also, we're going to attach the foot back to its original position. So now we're going to small mesh the rest of the body from the feet up. We're going to start off with his left foot, the one that's free from the rock. We've cut a piece of mesh which is 30 centimeters by 25 centimeters. We're going to show you how you're going to use this to do the shoe.
We're going to take that piece, slide it underneath the foot, making sure that we start the piece at the tip of the toes here. And we're going to have a little excess on the back, and we're just going to end up folding that up as well. So when we attach this piece, we're going to do something that's very similar that we did with the rock. We're going to cut strips and fold them over and attach them on both sides and work them down the foot. So
for the right foot, I've cut a square piece, 25 centimeters by 25 centimeters. Because the heel's attached to the rock, we can't have that overlap, so we're going to do something slightly different. Okay. So now we have the shoes small meshed. We're going to move up and do the legs of the trousers. So I'm going to measure the hem of Adam's trousers, for example, with the rope. We're going to use the rope technique that we're familiar with. So for the hem, we're aiming for a circumference now of 32 centimeters in metal mesh. And what we're going to do, we're going to make a cylinder which is 32 centimeters in circumference that comes up with a flap that's a little bit higher so we can tie it to the knee where Adam's pointing.
So now we're going to measure the length of the leg and the small flap that comes over the knee. 43 centimeters.
So here I have a sheet of the small mesh. We're 43 centimeters long. And for the circumference, we have 32 centimeters plus 5 centimeters for an overlap. I'm going to show you how we're going to tie this in. So we're going to position the corner of this sheet of mesh right above where the knee is to secure it in place. And then we're going to cut And now we want to find the point in which we need to cut down in order for this mesh to wrap around the leg. So now we have the lower part of the trouser done here. We're going to do exactly the same thing on the other side. Okay, so we're going to move on to the top part of the legs. What we're going to do is take a measurement from where the thigh meets the stomach all the way to the kneecap for the length, and for the circumference we're going to take a measurement of the thigh and cut a piece accordingly. So 43,
43.
and 42.
Okay, we have our sheet, which is 42 centimeters plus 5, which is 47 centimeters, and that is for our circumference, by 43 centimeters. So the first thing we're going to do is unhook the arms, and that's going to make it much easier for us to put the mesh around the leg.
And we're going to use the same method, which is to attach one corner to the knee, and then once that's tied in, make a few cuts so we can wrap it around the leg. So now we have the lower part of the trouser done here. We're going to do exactly the same thing on the other side. What you might notice is it sags quite a lot near the knee. Because the shape of the leg is bent on this angle, it looks very unnatural. What will naturally happen is the fabric will tuck in closer to the knee. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut and taper this in. So we've attached the lower part of the trouser, the top part of the trouser. Now you'll notice there are a couple of gaps just where the bend in the knee is. We're just going to take a couple of small squares of mesh and close those off. As Adam and I were working here, we realized that we need an extra little bit of mesh in between the legs for where the crotch area of the trousers is. So what we're going to do is attach a T-piece like this. If you measure a rectangle 24 by 16, and then on each corner cut out a square of 8 centimeters, that'll give you a good piece that you can fit in there. So now that we've done the legs, the trousers are done, we are going to move on to the arms. Unlike the legs, which are clothed, the arms are going to be exposed. He's going to be wearing short sleeves. So what we're going to do is we're going to small mesh the arms exactly the way they are, and then when we get to doing the body, we're also going to do the sleeves of the shirt. So to start off, we're going to take a measurement from the wrist to the biceps, which is 22 centimeters, and the circumference is 21 centimeters. We're going to add 5 centimeters. We're going to do 22 by 26 centimeter piece for the lower part of the arm. So let's measure from the elbow halfway up the arm, gives us 16 centimeters, and we take the circumference, which is 22. We're going to add 5 centimeters so we can have an overlap. So we cut our piece of mesh accordingly. We attach it at the side of the arm, precisely where the small mesh of the forearm ends. And then when we wrap around, we see where we need to cut in order to wrap the rest around.
So you can see that we only went halfway up the arm with the small mesh. We did that because this guy's going to be wearing a shirt and the sleeves are going to come past the halfway point. So we have a few more spots to cover in preparation to put on the shirt for the guy here. And you can see we have a big hole in the neck here. And also there's some spaces in between the neck cylinder where it meets the face. So we're going to address all that stuff right now. And we're also going to take off this hat because it's starting to catch on our clothes and be kind of a nuisance.
To fill the gap where his chest is, we've cut a sheet which is 15 centimeters by 20 centimeters. This is just big enough to cover about this area on his chest. The reason is because the shirt's going to cover everything else. Now for the neck, if we take from the top of the neck cylinder where it touches the head, right down to the opening of the body where the neck has been inserted, that is 16 centimeters. And we take the circumference of the neck, which is 30, but we're going to add 5 centimeters for an overlap. We cut our piece 16 centimeters by 35. attach the center line of this piece. So we've come halfway along the neck. We've seen that the face is obstructing us from being able to wrap it all the way around. So we're just going to cut another little strip off, just so that we can get all the way around the neck. And then we're going to find our point to each side of the neck where we cut this strip to allow us to wrap it all the way around.
And one final step before we do the shirt is we're just going to reattach the arms in the right places.
So for the shirt, we're going to start at the bottom. What I have here is a strip which is 17 centimeters high by 70 centimeters long. We're going to find the middle of this strip, attach it to the top of the belly in the middle, and then we're going to wrap it around. And I'm going to show you how to do that so we get a nice shape of the shirt. We have the feeling of the shirt kind of falling naturally from the belly, and we're just going to tie it in securely like that. So moving up, we've got another piece, 13 centimeters by 70 centimeters. We're going to use this piece in the middle of the body. Where the body's folded forward, we've got a very aggressive crease here, and we want to use that to soften that aggressive crease. So now we take a strip 12 centimeters by 55 centimeters. Instead of going around like we have the previous two strips, this time around we're going to join at the top of the previous strip and come around to the back. So we attach a corner at the center of the body, at the chest, tie our prongs across that strip. As we fold this strip up, we want to have the effect that the shirt is falling off the shoulder and then coming back in as it would naturally. And as we bend this down, we have just enough length for it to meet the previous strip we'd tied around. We want this strip to come right along the neck and also be flush along the shoulder. Now normally what would happen, the shirt would crease in underneath the armpit. So we're going to make a cut in the mesh to be able to fold that in.
Okay guys, we're going to start constructing the collar for the shirt. So we're going to need a piece of small mesh that is 48 centimeters long by 10 centimeters wide. And now you're going to take the piece that we just folded in half and spread it just a little bit so it allows us to be able to make some snips that we're going to do here in a minute. So like that. Okay, so our first cut, we're going to go 10 centimeters in, and that will be the end of our collar. Just like that. Be careful not to cut both sides. You only want to cut one side here. Okay, and you're going to go 5 centimeters from that. And continue with 5 centimeter cuts until you get to the other end, and that will be another 10 centimeters here. Okay, we're going to keep going. So fold that around and get a nice collared shape, and then take your snips and cut at a 45-degree angle across the wire. And we're going to do where the collar comes to a point. And you start to see it there. Yeah? So where that angle ends, on the back side, just cut straight down. Just like that, and then do that to the other side as well. Okay guys, so now we're going to attach our collar. So take your collar and go along the side that we didn't cut and find the center of that distance. Yeah? So for us, about right here. Okay? And now you're going to find the spot where the center of the neck meets the shoulder line. So right here. And you're going to take the center of the collar here and the point on the neck and attach. So now that you have the back of your collar attached, you're going to take both ends and bring them down until they're about 8 centimeters apart underneath the neck. Now make sure that they're centered on the body, that you don't have them too far one way or too far the other way. So, yeah. right down center and 8 centimeters apart, and then you start to attach. Okay guys, now that you have your collar attached, we're just going to fold each segment down and secure it to the body like that, and we're going to work our way all the way down, securing each piece. And when we get to the end, make sure that we leave this the tail end of the collar open, so you have a little bit of space in between here. Okay guys, now we're going to attach the sleeves. What you're going to need for this is a 20 centimeter by 20 centimeter sheet of small mesh. We're going to take our 20 by 20 sheet and make a nice U shape like this. And take that sheet and insert it underneath the armpit. It's as far as it will go. Don't worry about it wrapping all the way around the arm. What we're more looking for is the shape, so that you have a distance here, a little bit of a flare, and I'm going to attach it just like this.
So now we have the main elements of the clothes on. If you look at your sculpture, like us, you'll find many little holes all over the place. For example, under the arm here, along the back, where the trouser leg meets the butt, and a variety of other places. What we're going to do is show you how to fill each of these. So we're going to start off by these holes under the armpit. We're just going to take a strip that connects with the front of the shirt right to the back of the shirt. So the only other tricky area is here where the leg meets the butt. Basically, we're going to take a rectangular shape such as this. We're going to attach it to the leg, and then we're going to cut along here, which will allow us to fold one strip across and one strip up. Now for all the open bits at the back, we can just take one big sheet of mesh and cover that off. This is the perfect size piece to go all the way from the bottom of the shirt, which is going to be making contact with the rock, all the way up to cover the holes along the back. Once we've attached that, we're just going to make a few incisions along the sides here so that we can taper it so it fits neatly along the side of the back. We have the major holes all covered up. Like us, I'm sure you have many smaller holes. We have one at the back here, we've got one at the back of the head, one in the knee. Just have an inspection of your overall sculpture and find any loose offcuts that you have that you've collected along the way to cover those up. So we're going to go right ahead and do that just to finish off. Okay guys, give yourself a round of applause because you've just finished the small mesh part of your sculpture. Now in the next video we're going to start the cementing, and this is when we're going to bring him really to life. Until then, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can post some questions below if you have them. We'll get right back to you. Until then, see you next time.